Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the 1ND podcast. I'm your host, Vikash, and I'm joined with my co-host.
Hey, my name is Sagar.
And today, we're going to be talking about baseball, the juicy rumors, the predictions, everything.
Yeah, and I think a good place to start, given the relevancy of it, is the Houston Astros cheating scandal. So, what do you want to talk about first?
Ooh-wee. I hate the Astros.
Yeah, I do too now. I mean, okay, just to get it out of the way, since we're Tampa Bay based, we're both huge Tampa Bay Rays fans. So, if you hear any bias, you know why.
Enormous Rays fans. There's a reason we lost. The Rays have to go through the Astros so often. Whether it be in the season, whether it be in the playoffs, it is annoying that they cheated. But if you look at the numbers, even though they cheated, the Rays have a better record at Minute Maid Park.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting for sure. And, we were talking about it. If we look at their 2017 splits, especially for Altuve, Correa, and McCann, you could clearly see some, you know, difference in their home and away numbers. But, when we researched this year, the numbers weren't skewed at all. So I don't know exactly how much relevance the cheating would have this year, but, it's definitely an open possibility given what they did in 2017. You have to assume.
Was the year,
yeah.
This year was the Buzzergate scandal. But how about we give a brief overview? You want to give a brief overview of what transpired in terms of the Houston Astros scandal and what they got cheating with?
Yeah, so I think a good place to start is just explaining that in 2017, of course, the Houston Astros won the World Series title. The main controversy here comes from the fact that they were using electronics, for sign stealing. Now, sign stealing itself is permitted. It's nothing illegal as per the rule book, but the use of technology is what is prohibited. So their use of technology via a camera in the outfield to capture sign stealing and alerting players to what kind of pitch was coming to them proved instrumental in their batting statistics, which you can clearly see in their home and away splits. And this led to the MLB investigating the entire situation and handing down a punishment that was really focused on punishing management over the players. So they're really emphasizing the blame on managers. So that would include Alex Cora, who has not been officially punished yet. It would include the Astros manager and their general manager.
Right, and Cora it hasn't been punished yet because they're investigating in the Red Sox next.
Exactly, yeah.
And what I found interesting is that reading the article that MLB put out and other articles, I found that the people who were mainly involved, it wasn't the manager, it was Alex Cora, and it was the players. They had some people install cameras, but some like lower level people were the ones who were relaying the signs and whatnot, and the players were banging on the trash cans, banging on the roofs and everything, and it's really easy to hit a ball when you know what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And this leads into a new scandal because now the Astros have no benefit of the doubt. So this arises with some video taken during the playoffs last year. Well, yeah, last year, involving the Game 6, I believe. Game 6 or 7 between the Astros and the Yankees, where Aroldis Chapman throws an off-speed pitch, which Altuve seemingly expected to come his way, and he walk-off homers, which is a picture-perfect ending to the series. But it begs the question, the video that surfaced shows Altuve being really hesitant about having his jersey ripped off, which just adds more fuel to the fire of, hey, maybe he was actually hiding a buzzer under his jersey that he did not want people to see, why he alerted his team to not rip off his jersey.
Right, and you saw Aroldis Chapman was smiling, and at the time, Yankee fans were annoyed. They were pissed. They wanted him to be cut at the time because they're like, wow, this man just gave up a walk-off home run and he's smiling. But now, there might be a new angle to this whole story. Maybe he was smiling because he knew they were cheating. And Altuve, on his way home, he said, don't rip off my shirt, don't rip off my shirt. They celebrated, and he was the first one to the dugout. Now, I will say, he is a strange guy. His interview afterwards was very strange. Although suspicious, very strange. He is usually strange when he speaks in English. and maybe he ran into the dugout first because everyone else had their ALCS shirts ready, and he wanted to change into it as well to join his brethren. But it was very suspicious, and there has been some evidence. Twitter, as much as it annoys me that people just jump on these conspiracy theory bandwagons on Twitter, they do find a lot of stuff out. They're the people that found out, that dug into the banging that the Astros did and during games. And so you should take everything with a grain of salt on Twitter. I think people need to cite their sources a lot more, because nowadays people will believe anything on Twitter. Like, I don't know if you know who John Boy is.
No, I don't.
So he's hilarious. He does these highlight analyses of games, and he puts a nice little funny twang to it. But he's also big baseball mind. He has a Yankees podcast, so F the Yankees. But he retweeted the accusation from the burner account that claimed to be the niece of Carlos Beltran, stating that, essentially starting Buzzergate. And he said he stood by it even after the account was proven fake, because he said he has, quote unquote, 5 credible sources that told him the same thing. And now, listen, I love that guy. That guy's hilarious. He's very funny. He's very knowledgeable too about baseball. But I think they need to start naming names when they're saying stuff like 5 credible sources. In school, you can't just write a paper and cite your source as some credible book/author, right? You need to name the author, name the book, write it in whatever MLA format. And otherwise, you're going to get docked points or even get called out for plagiarism. And so, with all these accusations flying around, I would like the Astros to be investigated for Buzzergate. But I can make stuff up and say I heard it from a credible source. Like, watch. I heard from a really credible source that Aaron Judge was seen with Jeffrey Epstein on the Virgin Islands. Wasn't that a fun one? Now, from a really credible source, I heard Mookie Betts is a prostitute. Like, come on. Anyone can say anything, and it can be guised in the veil of credibility by simply stating that you have a source. As a disclaimer, I don't have a credible source. Those were completely false, not true, and those are very cool guys and very great players.
Yeah, putting that out there just in case anyone thought that was real. Anyway, I think that's a valid point that people need to come out and step forward and put a name behind what they're claiming, and I think even if they don't, just the fact that there's already been a guilty statement is what's led more fuel to the fire, right? So now all the Astros players, the organization, manager, owner, they don't have any benefit of the doubt. So once you've been accused and proven of doing something wrong, generally people are not going to believe you. And that's why this whole Twitter storm exploded the way it did, because once the MLB come down and says, hey, you are guilty for this cheating in 2017, people will go and scour the internet to find other instances of it just to see, hey, this also happened. And you make a good point that, hey, there's no valid source. So officially, we can't be 100% sure. But given what we have, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that there may be something there, right? There's a possibility of further cheating, which no one would be surprised by. So again, I hope, like you said, the MLB does investigate this, because from what everyone's saying and the sources are saying, it seems to be credible. Now, they may do this under the guise of anonymity, right? So the MLB may reach out to these 5 sources that John Boy claimed to be his sources to, figure out, hey, did this happen or not? So I think a further investigation is definitely something that needs to be done. And if this is true, I think the method of punishment also needs to be altered, right? So in the 2017 scandal, the only people punished were the manager and the general manager. And I think in this case, you may have to extend that to punish some of the players. I don't know how they would punish the players and how they would identify who on the team was cheating, because I think I don't know if you could just assume everyone on the team cheated, right? For example, say there's a second base backup. He had no say in the game, and he's just on the team as a bench warmer, for example. So in that case, would you punish him as well? So the way they levy the punishment, if they do conduct an investigation on this, is going to be interesting, and it's definitely worth following to see what the the consequences of this entire situation could be.
I will say you and I probably both agree some players should be suspended for their involvement with the 2017 scandal.
I mean, for sure. I mean, if you just look at the splits for these guys, I mean, it's disgusting. You can clearly tell that they were cheating just given the numbers they had. Then this begs the question, hey, what about these pitchers who we had all these questions about? It impacted their legacy. Just for example, in those series, Clayton Kershaw, he has a reputation of being amazing in the regular season and lackluster in the postseason. Maybe if they didn't cheat, the entire opinion and public consensus about Kershaw would be different now. So it's like a waterfall effect. Like one thing leads to the other, and it just continuously builds up. So the ramifications of this stretch further than just the Astros, and it have impacted players and their performance on other teams. So players should definitely be held accountable. Yeah, we both agree on that.
Most definitely. Actually, if you look in that World Series, Clayton Kershaw did great at home.
Exactly.
And then Dodger fans were wondering why he couldn't get through 4 innings against the Astros in Houston. And then you have people like Yu Darvish. Maybe he was great, right, to start his career, and then he just choked in the World Series, but maybe that was because of their cheating. But then some psychological thing happened to him where it continued further. I feel bad for the Indians who got beat in 2018 by the cheating Astros, and then even if they had beat the cheating Astros, they would have to have faced the cheating Red Sox. And so it's just a crazy situation, man. And I would like these rumors to be true. The Buzzergate, everything. It would paint baseball in this strange light, right? To where Rob Manfred, he isn't bad, but he's also not embracing change. Baseball is by far the oldest viewership in professional sports. I don't have any numbers to back it up, but I definitely think that's fact. And baseball needs to expand and be more attractive to a younger audience. And I feel like that's one of the reasons Manfred isn't looking into this Buzzergate. That these cheating strategies are bringing more offense to the game, and people just like offense. Nobody wants to see a pitcher go 9 innings and throw a shutout. I personally do. I love the game. I don't care if it's a 1-0 game or a 11-9 game. I love it regardless. There's so many things that you can pay attention to within a game and enjoy. But a younger audience, they want to see homers. They want to see cool grounders and amazing plays. You know, they want to see Miguel Cabrera. I mean, not Miguel Cabrera anymore, but they want to see some third baseman like Matt Chapman, you know, range from the foul line and throw it all the way to first. They want to see amazing plays. The highlights are what bring people to the sport. And all these cheating scandals, to take all this cheating away, will reduce offense, which is, yes, it's bad, but at the same time, you want this game to be as fair as possible. Some teams are cheating, some teams aren't. Expand it to everyone. If you're going to let people cheat, give everyone the opportunity to cheat. I don't understand, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think it really draws the comparison to if you look at the NFL and the NBA, right? Where so much of the younger audience is consuming these highlights on their phone, right? Like on Instagram is my go-to place now to look at highlights from games compared to back 5-10 years ago. It used to be on SportsCenter. You used to sit down on the TV, by the TV, and watch the daily highlights. Now it's just at the tap of your finger. So these highlight potential plays and name branding behind MLB players in addition to an increase in offense would definitely lead to an increased popularity among the younger fan base. So yeah, that you make a good point that, hey, you know, this cheating is occurring. Maybe it's actually good for the league in the sense that you're getting more offense. But at the same time, if this is the new standard, implement it in the rules. Make it so that everyone has the ability to do so. Exactly. So I think that's a great point, and I think that the popularity issue is real. And even this season, Justin Verlander was complaining about how the baseballs themselves felt different and how they were carrying further in the outfield. So MLB might be doing things subtly to increase offense, but I think it's time that they embrace change, like you said, and just change the rules in a way that make it more offense friendly.
Definitely. I will say it's not good for the game of baseball. This cheating definitely does not belong. And I'm not trying to say Rob Manfred hasn't done anything at all. I know he's trying, like the pace of play initiatives. A shorter game will appeal to a younger audience, I guess, given their attention spans. And adding replay was a great decision as well. And they're just some decisions I just don't understand. He's got a tough job, and these controversies just make them tougher. But I do think he needs to investigate to the best of his ability. Like, thank you, Matt Fires. First off, like, that needed to come out.
Yeah,
we couldn't have these teams cheating for an extended period of time.
I think a majority of people agree that what Fires did was the correct thing to do.
Not that Mets lady.
Oh, yeah, I forget her name. It's slipping my mind, but
yeah,
I mean, it just goes to show you how people working for corporations have corporate interest in mind, so their judgment is clouded. And it's always good to take everything you consume with a grain of salt, right? Understand the biases at play, what companies or agencies certain people are representing. So it may not be their own values, but it may be the values of the company. In this case, Manfred is being applauded for doing a good job of handing down a strict punishment on the Astros. But I think the way he put out the news and everything around it is slightly fishy. For example, without Fires coming out, this investigation would not have taken place. While him coming out is good, there were rumblings in the league for years that, hey, the Astros are doing this. And I think this, again, builds to the point that you need some credible names behind accusations. So if anything, we should be encouraging people to come out and step forward with allegations and things they think are unjust in the league.
Yeah, we definitely need a fair game. And the Mets lady, ESPN lady, I forget her name, but she stated that it should have been told to MLB internally through the team or something. But I heard that many teams have complained and nothing had been happening until it came out to the public. The public eye is what matters to this game, and that's why they started the investigations. But if you're going to look into into the Astros because of what Mike Fires said, why not look into other accusations from other MLB players? Like Logan Morrison literally stated that the Yankees and Dodgers do the same video replay stealings that the Astros did. Yet, I don't think the MLB are going to open an investigation on that. Like Logan Morrison said, don't half-arse these punishments. Punish any other team that's doing the same thing, and punish the players who are involved as well. And also, a little new news. Jack McDowell, he was a Cy Young winner in the early 90s. He made a claim that Tony La Russa was stealing signs back in the 90s using a camera in the Gatorade ad at the White Sox Stadium. And I believe I looked up the stadium and I saw that there was a Gatorade sign in the outfield that would have a direct line to the catcher. So that's a very interesting story because he could have brought Tony La Russa, legendary coach, he could have brought that manager. He could have brought that technology to the Cardinals. And who was on the Cardinals? Lunow, the former GM for the Astros. Maybe he brought it to the Astros. You never know. Maybe it's spread from that. Conspiracies are always fun to think about, but it's crazy that's all of this stuff is happening. It's also entertaining, but very, very weird at the same.
Yeah, no, I think it's good to acknowledge the fact that, hey, look, the Astros are guilty and they got punished because they got caught cheating. But it doesn't mean that they're the only ones cheating. It's clear as day that teams in the league have an interest, and it suits them to win as many games as possible and have a competitive advantage. And to gain that competitive advantage, they will always cross the line or tiptoe around the line of what's fair play and what's cheating, right? So thinking that the Astros are the only ones cheating or have ever been involved with this kind of cheating would be naive, to say the least. There's clearly cheating taking place elsewhere. And I think, again, this goes to the reservations Manfred may have about making this all public, where, just for example, the 10-page report highlighting the cheating and the punishment came out the day of the college football championship game. So he wanted to keep this, relatively under the radar for as long as he could. And of course, the news cycle picked it up and it played out over the week. So this has become a huge deal. And again, I think the ramifications are huge and it could span decades. So it's definitely something that needs to be addressed at the forefront of the league so that they can resolve this issue and move on.
Definitely. They need to investigate any teams that were accused by MLB players. It wouldn't surprise me if they did the same. They have all these, you know, resources, and they can take a maximum fine. What, $5 million? What is that to the Yankees and Dodgers? I think there should be player suspensions as well.
If you asked, yeah, just for example, say you were an owner, right, and I offered you the chance to win a World Series for the price of $5 million, would you say yes or no?
100%.
100% of the time you'd say yes, right? So what is $5 million as a punishment for an owner who won a World Series? And the revenue he generated through those playoff games, ticket sales, merchandise, and popularity of the team, it's nothing. So again, punishment was harsh on the managers and the general manager, but I feel like they could have been stricter on other areas of the team.
Right. Or an asterisk. Alex Bregman won MVP. They won the World Series. There's so many things that happened because of during this period of cheating. And apparently, someone accused the Astros of cheating all the way back in 2014, and you can hear banging in some videos as well. I saw it on Twitter. I don't know if people added it. You never know, but I saw that. That's a little interesting tidbit. But apparently, MLB didn't want to go into the mess to measure how much each player was involved. But at the same time, what's your job? That's the entire point of an investigation. You're looking into this mess and figuring out who was involved and to what extent. Like, they only named Carlos Beltran because he's a current MLB manager. They feel as though these managers aren't as important as the players because the players bring so much to the game. You can't suspend Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, Mookie Betts, those types of players without there being a loss in viewership because those are such big name brand players. Imagine suspending Tom Brady for 3 seasons. Imagine suspending Peyton Manning and Tom Brady back when in their prime. Nobody would want to watch football. Those were the 2 big honchos of the league, and now you don't want to suspend MLB players because it was too much of a mess to measure how much each player was involved. I don't think that makes any sense. If the Rays were at fault, if the Rays were cheating, I would want them to investigate them too. I'm all for fairness.
Yeah, I mean,
this is already a bad look.
Yeah, if you think about it, even the Astros fans themselves, I mean, from what I've seen on Twitter and people reaching out to radio shows and such, they're disappointed in their team. At the end of the day, a true fan wants absolute victory over an opposing team. So having a World Series, but having it tainted by this cheating scandal leaves a hollow feeling, right? Like you said, if the Tampa Bay Rays won the World Series and they cheated and this entire thing came out, we wouldn't hold as much value with that ring, right? And we would also look down on the players like, hey, you were this good in the playoffs, but how much of it was your true ability? How much of it was your cheating? So in that case, yeah, I mean, it just taints the reputation the team has, and it's definitely bad for the league.
Teams like the Rays, Athletics, and Indians already have it tough enough with their limited salary. Then they have to go against all these cheating teams as well. I think the Rays honestly could have won the World Series last year. They had such a great team, such a great chance. But I feel especially bad for the Indians, like I said earlier, when they had to face the cheating Astros and the cheating Red Sox. And if they beat the Astros, they would have had to face the Red Sox in 2018. That was their best chance of winning the World Series, next to 2016 when they made it to the series and lost to the Cubs. But they lost to the Astros. But it's crazy. The 2018 ALCS, I just realized, was literally the American League cheating series with the Astros and Red Sox playing one another.
I mean, and if you think about it, back in 2017 as well, you have the Astros in play, you have the Yankees in play. So all of these teams are teams that have some kind of cheating accusation thrown on them now, with one team being guilty as of now. So I just want to, again, push the fact that, yeah, I also want there to be an investigation done on the Yankees and the Dodgers and any other potential team that's been called out by players in the league or players that were playing in the league back in 2017.
Man, and Carlos Beltran had to step down. Apparently, he said he could take the heat and wanted to stay as the manager of the Mets, but the team said, "Nah, we don't want that." Maybe he brought that cheating tech to the Yankees. Remember that video that from Alex Cora in the press
it was so
conference?
interesting and mind-boggling. If, again, okay, given the context of the situation, you can read into what he's saying differently. But now in hindsight, given the details we have, you can interpret it completely differently, right? He's talking about how Beltran was the most important acquisition for the New York Yankees and how he would bring things over. And I'm not sure exactly what he said, but he mentioned devices and such, right? So back then it may not have meant much, but now, in hindsight, what he said is very concerning. And again, I think it warrants an investigation into the Yankees as well, because, hey, they could claim we lost to the Astros, but what if they were cheating as well? Now, this is just a tumbling, and who knows where this will stop.
And I think that's why MLB doesn't want to investigate. It would
Exactly.
just be a waterfall. But also the wink in that press conference was interesting. I know privately we were talking, and I love playing devil's advocate with you, but man, I watched it again. That was so suspicious.
It's all suspicious now in hindsight.
In hindsight, 100%. And the Yankees have been caught cheating before. In 2015, they were using the video room during games, but it wasn't illegal at the time. They got a pass because the memo for using electronics was put out in 2017. And in 2017, also, the Yankees and Red Sox, they had Apple Watches in the dugout. And the Yankees were caught using them in the bullpen. I mean, the Yankees were caught using the bullpen phone to get information on the strike zone and opposing pitchers. That's cheating, but they didn't get in trouble at all. Logan Morrison is a Roberto Clemente Award nominee. He is a credible source, and the teams he has implicated should be investigated, in my opinion. I would like to know how Logan Morrison knew about the Yankees cheating, though, because he wasn't on the Major League roster with them. But maybe it's widely known in the organization. Maybe he heard through the grapevine. Maybe he learned a thing or two while on the AAA roster. We need these salty fans to go and investigate the Yankees and find some evidence so that the MLB will then go and do it, because it doesn't seem like they will.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think that's a good point. And I think, again, it comes down to the fact that the use of technology is explicitly forbidden in the rules, right? So this is 100% cheating. And I just wanted to make the comparison between this and the steroid era, because clearly back in the day when Barry Bonds was close to homering over 60 home runs every season after the steroids, it begs the question, hey, what's worse? And if you look at a lot of these pitchers on Twitter and just what they've been commenting about this entire situation, they're saying, hey, I would rather face a hitter that is known to be on steroids than face a hitter who knows every pitch I will be throwing, right? It's such a big advantage to know what's coming up next. Clearly, just for example, from the Altuve at-bat against Chapman, where you have a pitcher who throws well over 100 miles an hour, an off-speed pitch from him is very deadly. So if you are able to know and sit on those pitches, it changes the entire game, right? So the ramifications and how effective this cheating method is, again, really highlights how big of an advantage and how unfair of an advantage the Astros had against their opponents.
And with Chapman, you decide you're going to swing before he throws it. That's the thing. He throws so fast, so hard that you don't know what's coming. And to take the two pitches that Jose Altuve took, it was definitely an interesting time.
Yeah, especially given Chapman. And I don't have the video right now, but there's a video again floating on Twitter showing, I think, Correa having a conversation with a news reporter on the field, where Correa was actually surprised that Altuve was sitting on the pitches. So he said they had an exchange where Correa asked him, hey, were you sitting on that pitch? And Altuve said, yes, he was. So having the confidence to sit on an off-speed pitch from a guy who throws 102-mile-an-hour fastball, again, is suspicious, and I will not give them the benefit of the doubt just because of the fact that they were caught cheating in the past. And again, like you said, with your point, Altuve is a awkward guy sometimes, and I can understand. He's a genius at the plate, right? He's as good as he is for a reason. So the hours and years of his dedication to the craft, I could see him knowing and waiting on that pitch. But at the same time, given the cheating scandal, it could also be true that he did cheat on that at bat.
Definitely suspicious. Now, I know Chapman, his control wasn't the greatest that day, so maybe Altuve knew something. Maybe he knew that, maybe he won't throw this fastball right now. But, yeah, definitely, in hindsight, very suspicious at bat. That at bat came in 2019, so it would have been post-cheating scandal. It would have been Buzzergate, but who knows, man? You wanna move away from this scandal talk and talk about
for
the
sure.
upcoming
I
season?
think it's definitely going to be interesting to follow what's going on. But yeah, I think we should, highlight some of the things in the upcoming season. I know you had some predictions that you wanted to go over.
Definitely. But first and foremost, can I just gush over these Rays?
I mean, yeah, you do you, man.
I am such a huge Rays fan, and I am excited for this season. The Rays made it to the postseason last season while only having one pitcher in the rotation for a long portion of the season due to a number of injuries. They had 90-plus wins, and they were a few games behind the Yankees, who were a 100-plus win team. People like to give the Rays a bad rap because they're so cheap. The attendance is terrible, and that's admittedly true. The attendance is trash. Like, I try to go to a bunch of games every season, but it's tough, We're both students. Well, I was a student, and we work and everything. It's just tough to find the time. And they're always just such a good team. The Rays are run so well. They play logically. They send a player away when they know they will be too expensive to retain. And they build their farm system. That's why they're always in the top tier. Farms, like right now, they're the number one farm system in baseball. I think the Padres are overrated. Some people say the Padres, some people say the Rays. I think it's the Rays personally. Bias AF. But they churn so many good players and they bring them to the league. Yes, they'll have a bad season here and there, but in the last decade, they were top 5 in wins, I believe. And that's no easy task given the division they play in. Probably the toughest in baseball with the Yankees and Red Sox, and there was a period where the Blue Jays were great. There was a period where the Orioles were okay for a year or two, but now they're always trash, let's be honest. And they're not mentioned very often in developing pitchers, but they are very stellar in that department too. I believe they will have the offensive power this year to keep up with other teams. And if this cheating scandal results in less cheating, it'll bring it back to the pitchers. It'll bring it back to the era a few years ago where the pitchers were dominant and the Rays have such a great rotation.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I just want to comment on the low attendance fact. I think just an example I want to use across leagues, right? For example, would be the Los Angeles Rams, right? They made tons of big free agent signings, trading for name brand players. And why do you think they did this? They did this to gain a fandom, right? To sell tickets, to sell vouchers to fans to come watch the game, because they know that big names are what bring in ticket sales, right? You want to root for certain players. So I think that the mathematical, cold-cutting nature of the Tampa Bay Rays as an organization in terms of efficiency, cost, getting the absolute maximum out of their players, results in them making a lot of transactions with other teams, which means that the consistency of players over time that remain on the team, the average time of a player may not be as great. So that star power that people go to watch games for is lacking sometimes on the Tampa Bay Rays. Just for example, again, you are a super fan of the team, so you follow what they do very closely. But someone like me and some of my friends like talking casually about the Rays. So, hey, this player's really good. For example, Evan Longoria was such a long time star on the team that he was a primary reason they probably sold tickets. So the fact that we have this turn of new players coming in and out of the system leads to people being not as acquainted with the team, that most casual fans may not be acquainted with them. So I think that plays some kind of role in why ticket sales, especially for the Rays, are down, in addition to, of course, our stadium being not the best. So I think those are all combining factors, and I think it's interesting to see that given the fact that we win so much, right? You would think that, hey, we're a winning team, we should have some of the best attendance in the league. That's not always the case, and that's a very interesting fact that and it's a reality that people need to accept.
And me personally, I like the Tropicana field. Air conditioning in Florida is a must. I know that people don't like it very much, the dome and whatnot. And I will say it's tough to have this low budget team, but it's definitely on the head of the owner. The owner can definitely put more money in the team, but it does so well that why would he want to? And it's kind of a double-edged sword. You want to perform as well as you can, right? You want these GMs and everyone, they want to do their jobs to the best of their ability, but at the same time, they're doing so well at churning out these great players and then trading them for such top-tier players, and then they make it to the postseason, they get 90-plus wins, and all the while with such a low salary. And then the owner's like, oh, we can do this every single year. We run so great. But just invest a little more in the team, owner boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it really, again, shows you how the no salary cap nature of the league impacts what teams do. The Rays can be excellently run, have the best staff, but if there's another team that mimics what they do, but has more money, the outcome of the games is obvious, right? So a team that does both is obviously going to be the team that does something excellently, but doesn't have the money for it.
Definitely. Man, I went to a postseason game last year against the Astros, and it was amazing. Everyone was into it, and the stadium was full. And man, I bought tickets to Game 4 after they lost Game 2, which means they weren't guaranteed to get to Game 4. If they lost Game 3, there would have been no Game 4, but I was very confident in the Rays pulling through. I believe if it were a 7-game series, even though the Astros cheated, I believe, I think the Rays would have won, given how MLB structures their ALDS, because it's a 5-game series. I mean, given in 7-game series, it's 2 games at the higher seed, 3 games at the lower seed, and then the final 2 games are at the higher seed. The Rays could have been up 3-2 going back to Houston if they were to have a 7-game series.
Yeah, that is true. And if I remember correctly, in the 2019 World Series, was the away team the team that won all the games?
Yeah.
That's a very interesting fact.
Imagine going to those games.
Oh, exactly.
Oh my goodness. But let me give a little preview on the Rays. Might be a long preview, but they have a great rotation going. Might see the opener here and there, but it's definitely going to be less prevalent than it was last season. It was necessary last season given the amount of injuries they had. But right now they have a full rotation. They have Charlie Morton, Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow, Ryan Yarbrough, Yoni Chirinos, Brendan McKay even. He's definitely a better pitcher than he is a batter, but we'll see what his bat gets to. But given all the studs we have this season, man, it's going to be tough to get him in the lineup. The opener can come in here and there with Yarbrough, Chirinos, McKay coming in afterwards. The analytics are usually on the side of the opener. And I'd like to explain the opener and why it works so well, because it's all based off of analytics, and the Rays are a big analytics team. The reason it works so well is that the batter usually does better against a pitcher the more he sees them. So most teams will load their best batters in the beginning of the lineup. Your 1, 2, 3, those are your studs. You want them to be on base. You want to get a lead early. Thus, if you have a relief pitcher starting the game and they don't allow a run, the bulk pitcher who comes in afterwards, they not only get to start against quote-unquote easier matchups, but they won't be seeing the best batters on the opposing team 3+ times. It makes sense. Analytically, it shows that it works.
I mean, if you think about it, the Rays have been at the forefront of a lot of different techniques and strategies to win games. For example, remember back in the day in 2008 where we really emphasized bunting and the importance of it and how our team was structured around that. We essentially introduced it back into the game, for example, and these innovations that the league and teams make, it's a copycat league. What's successful works, and eventually it'll spread to other teams. And it's always important to be at the forefront of these kind of tactics. So what you said makes perfect sense. Just for example, once you get used to a pitcher, it's obviously just common sense would dictate it would be easier to hit off them. So why for so long have teams followed this method of, hey, the starting pitcher needs to come in for 6, 7 innings, followed by a reliever and then a closer? That may not always be the way to proceed forward. And when you're a team with a lower budget, it forces your management to think out of the box.
The Rays are definitely a creative team. The sacrifice bunt was integral back in the day for the Rays, and now the opener is at the forefront of the league. You see a bunch of other teams copying them already. But back to the Rays, the outfield is pretty stacked. Austin Meadows was amazing. That whole Archer trade was great. I love how they fleeced the Pirates. Kiermaier is the best defensive center fielder in the league, in my opinion. Hopefully his offense can catch up and he can avoid the injury bug. Renfroe is a great player. He hits for power, and he is great defensively, but his average and on base leave a lot to be desired. It's pretty abysmal, honestly. He did play in Petco Park, which is one of the most pitcher-friendly stadiums. So hopefully, so the Tropicana Field is also a pitcher-friendly stadium, but we'll see how he does. And he's also going into his fifth year and his age 27 season. Going into his prime, man. Let's hope the power stays and hopefully his on base and average can come up.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to see a few of our players. And again, I don't follow them as closely as you do, so there's going to be a lot of new names that I need to get acclimated with. But just based on how you're talking about the team, you're getting me hyped for the season. I definitely want to go to more games than I did last year. I think it would be a good opportunity to see a team that, if healthy, could go all the way.
If you're hype right now, hold on, because there's more coming. This man, Hunter Renfroe, was a finalist for the Gold Glove last season, so he's great defensively. So I'm looking forward to him. But in the Matthew Liberatore trade, they got Arozarena from the Cardinals, who is a great defensive outfielder, and he's great. He gets on base. He's pretty fast. He doesn't steal bases. So we'll see. He's probably going to be the fourth outfielder. And then Yoshi Tsutsugo seems to be a great player from Japan. He hits for power and average. So we'll have to see how he adapts to MLB pitching. I know over there they don't really see 95-mile-per-hour fastballs, really. So hopefully he can adapt. But we all know Ohtani did pretty well at adapting to MLB pitching.
Yeah, no, for sure. Ohtani was definitely a bright spot last year. Just his ability to pitch and bat is something I haven't seen, frankly, ever since I've been following the sport. So
hopefully Brendan McKay can be the next.
Maybe he can be the next one. So there's definitely a lot of exciting pitchers and batters and, defensive players that I definitely want to watch this season. And, given the investigation the MLB may do into teams, hey, we may get an advantage if some players from our division get suspended, given the nature of their cheating. So you never know. That may just add, and this may be the season where everything just comes together finally, and we win the World Series.
I don't think the Rays need any suspensions. I think they're good enough to beat them at their best. They've got a logjam at first. Hopefully I can go through the rest of the people in a rapid fashion. But they've got a logjam at first. Ji-Man Choi was great down the stretch, but Nate Lowe, he's the future at first. They traded for Jose Martinez, who is perfect for the AL because he definitely needs the DH. He's great offensively, like against lefties and righties. Defensively, abysmal, terrible defender. So keep him off the field. Keep him at DH. Brandon Lau, he was the Nate Lowe, Brandon Lau. I don't know. Same name, dude.
Yeah, it's spelled exactly the same, but pronounced differently.
So funny. But he was finalist for Rookie of the Year, and he had a great season until he got injured. And I hope he flourishes in year 2 over at second. Behind him are Wendell, who is pretty dependable, and Daniel Robertson. Adames is at short, and he's still young. It's still early in his career. And he's steadily improving year over year. Defensively, he's pretty good. He makes plays that are tough, and then he misses plays that are easy. So hopefully, if he can fix those easy plays, he can be a little more consistent. But I can't wait to see what he does this season. And then third base, I think the Rays would rather play Yandy Diaz at third to avoid more logjam at first. And he's not the greatest defender, but he absolutely rakes when he's healthy. He's the guy who pretty much jump-started the Rays in the postseason because he hit 2 home runs against the Athletics, and the Athletics just couldn't come back after that. Both he and Brandon Lau were actually on pace for 40 home runs last season before they got injured. That's amazing. 40 home runs? Goodness gracious. And Mike Brossow will probably fill in at third when Yandy doesn't play. And overall, there's just a lot more power potential for the Rays. At catcher, they have Mike Zunino, who was terrible last season. Absolutely terrible batting-wise. Amazing defensively, as he always is. And backing him up is Michael Perez, grown in the Rays farm system. I think he's really good. He just, whenever he comes up, just something happens all the time. Like last year, they got Dorno, and he just immediately became amazing for the Rays, and Perez didn't really have any room to play, so they sent him back down. But hopefully this season he gets his time to shine. Relief pitching hasn't changed much. I think they have some really good pieces there. Pagan and Nick Anderson were immaculate last season. Diego Castillo was up and down, but has that star potential. He can be a star in this league, and he's still young too. And Jose Alvarado, man, he started off so hot, but he fell really hard. And I know he had many personal issues during the season, unfortunately, and I hope those are all and done with, and hopefully he can get through those. I'm rooting for him this season because he's a great pitcher, and he's proven it already in his rookie season and early last season. And you remember how many times you saw Oliver Drake, Colin Poche, Chaz Rowe, Jalen Beeks. Those guys were great out of the bullpen. And, oh my God, the highlight reels the Rays pitching produces. Charlie Morton, Tyler Glasnow, Blake Snell, who else? Alvarado, Rowe, Castillo, they all had those viral pitches last season. The Rays are bringing those highlights that the MLB wants to them.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think this is the season we do it. I think this is the season we win it all. So that's some exciting
stuff. I say that every season, but I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
mean, you sold me. I think we'll be good this season. I'm definitely going to be attending more games for sure.
I've got goosebumps, man. Goosebumps for this season. I'm excited. And, last little tidbit, and then we can move on to predictions. The Rays have produced a crazy number of MLB managers. Kevin Cash, Joe Madden, those are Rays managers. But then Rocco Baldelli, he was the manager of the year last season. World Series winner, Martinez. Charlie Montoyo. Callaway and Kapler played on the Rays, but I don't count them since they were never a coach. But that's a lot of coaches with Rays ties in the league right now.
And I think it just
managers.
I think it just highlights the fact that the Rays as an organization are tops in the league in terms of how they manage, analyze, and acquire players. So I think teams want a piece of that. They want the mindset that people on our team have, and they want it brought over to their team. So I think it's definitely, again, highlighting how well our organization is run.
And you can see that in the Red Sox even taking away the former Rays GM. They want those amazing GMs. But I think with GMs, it's tough when they go from the Rays to a big budget team like the Red Sox, because then they're like, oh, wow, I just have a lot of money. What do I do with it? But no, I think that guy will do wonders for the Red Sox. But hopefully they got caught cheating, because F them. I hate them.
Yeah, for sure. Okay,
how about some predictions?
Yeah. So what are you going to give your predictions on?
Let's say just overall on standings maybe.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Let's go through. How about the NL East?
Okay, go for it.
So obviously, spring training hasn't even started yet. Pitchers and catchers haven't even reported, so none of these rosters are complete. But the Braves were great last season, but they need to find an answer at third. They lost Josh Donaldson. Austin Riley didn't look great, but maybe he's the answer. They have good pitching. I know they added Cole Hamels, and they have a great young core of pitchers. Young core of players as well, with Acuna and Ozzie Albies and Swanson. Oh my God, that's a great team actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But we'll see. We'll see how they can do without Donaldson. The Phillies need outfielders. They just have Bryce Harper, really. Andrew McCutchen's kind of old and got that injury bug over there. And we all know Real Muto is one of the best in the game at catcher. Their pitching is interesting. They've got potential. Nola is great. They added Zach Wheeler, I remember. So we'll see how they do. The Marlins are the Marlins. Trash. No real analysis there. I think the Mets could be a sneaky team because they need a bounce-back season from Thor. And they've got a nasty rotation. DeGrom. Noah Syndergaard, Marcus Stroman, Michael Wacha, Rick Porcello. That's pretty good, 1-5. And if Diaz can go back to being a shutdown closer, Edwin Diaz from the Mariners, then And if their second baseman Robinson Cano doesn't get suspended again, could be a good team to watch. I might have just convinced myself to change my standings. I didn't really have any predictions before this, but the World Series winners. How could I forget the Nationals? They lost perennial MVP candidate in Rendon, and that'll be tough to overcome.
Yeah,
they signed Starlin Castro, not a great player.
Didn't they also lose Garrett Cole to the Yankees? I think that's going to be a major loss.
Well, Garrett Cole was on the Astros.
Oh, yeah. That's again. This shows you how much
lost.
I know.
Yeah, they had the choice between Rendon and Strasburg.
Oh,
really,
yes,
and they re-signed
yes.
Strasburg.
Yeah, they signed Strasburg. Now I remember.
And he was phenomenal. And he was MVP. And so, yeah, that rotation is what might carry them. I mean, Juan Soto is a phenom. That guy, I want to see more of that Soto shuffle. You know what I'm saying? But that's, with Strasburg and Scherzer up top, that's a nasty rotation. I don't know how far they can go, though, with that offense. So let's say, I think the Mets will win that division this time. I know every year they seem promising. This year might be the year they have a great rotation. I think that's where a good team starts. And rotation, then defense, then offense, I think, is integral. So you got the Mets. Then I think the Braves will be second. I think the Nationals will finish third. Oh, the defending champions at third. That's crazy. Okay. And then the Phillies at fourth, and then the Marlins at fifth, obviously.
Oh, that's okay. That's interesting. I mean, in terms of NL, I'm not too familiar with the teams and their divisions. I think, again, in general, not predictions. I just think that signing players to these long-term $300, $400 million contracts in the long run is not worth it at all, except for one player, Mike Trout. He's always worth it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
So again, it shows you, the Nationals, they were well run, and even despite losing Bryce Harper, they were able to win a World Series, whereas the Phillies, in this case, did not even make the playoffs.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I think the reason these teams sign players to those long-term contracts are not for the tail end of the season, the tail end of those contracts. It's for those first 2 to 3 years. Try to milk it as much as they can and try to get to the World Series. And failed for the Phillies so far. Let's see how Bryce Harper does. I think he is slightly overrated, but
And I think, again, it goes to show you how much owners value World Series, right? Where someone is willing to pay an exorbitant amount of money to a player to win the series. And it, again, ties back into our point about how much a $5 million fine would impact an owner from doing, questionable things.
And definitely to organizations like the Yankees and Dodgers, that's pennies.
Exactly.
Pennies.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness. But let's move on to the Central, who the Rays just traded with the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals traded for Liberatore so that they can try and trade for Nolan Arenado. If they can trade for Nolan Arenado, and they opened up an outfielder spot to try and re-sign Ozuna, who has stated that he wants to stay there. Now, if they can trade for Nolan Arenado, if they can re-sign Ozuna, they already have Paul Goldschmidt. They are running away with the Central. Goldie Arenado and Ozuna is just nasty. That is unfair, honestly. Carpenter's been injured, but he could come back to form. I mean, I don't know if their outfield is very good outside of if they get Ozuna, and that rotation isn't the greatest. But man, you can't question Goldie, Arenado, and Ozuna. Nasty, dude. Those are 3 MVP candidates, perennial, dude. On one team, wild. The Brewers have a great outfield. So much so that they pushed Ryan Braun to first base. And Christian Yelich, obviously one of the best players in the league. They have a pretty good rotation, and I think they signed a catcher from the Mariners, I believe, Omar Narvaez. Now that guy rakes. I think that was a great signing. I think they got him for cheap. I don't know why the Rays didn't get him, honestly. But we'll see how the Brewers do. I mean, actually, that rotation's pretty lackluster. And that was their downfall in the postseason and leading up to the postseason as well. So they need to make changes there. They need a starting pitcher. But they're like a middle of the road salary team. I think the Reds will be great this season. I know bottom feeder team, another one like the Mets. I think the Reds are gonna climb. They have great hitters. Joey Votto. They signed Mike Moustakas. They have Eugenio Suarez. They have Senzel. And, oh, my God. I don't know if you saw any highlights of Aquino, but that guy rakes, dude. Oh, my goodness. It was fun to watch. Very strange batting stance too, but just fun to watch. And their bullpen is pretty great, and rotation has some amazing potential. They have Castillo, they have Sonny Gray, they have Trevor Bauer. So they're a team that I think will surprise a lot of people this season. And then the Cubs, they're a team of wasted potential. They lost Joe Madden too. I think they're not gonna go very far. They have superstars on that team, but I don't think it's gonna pan out just like it didn't last season. And then the Pirates are just a team of potential every single season, and then their pitching just holds them back. They're probably gonna be last again. So prediction, I'll go Cardinals number 1, Reds 2, Brewers 3, Cubs 4, and Pirates 5.
Okay, interesting. So you really think the Cardinals are going to make an impact this year?
Man, if this is on the pretense that they get Nolan Arenado and Marcell Ozuna. If they do not get either of them, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I might bump them down to even 3. I'd go Reds, Brewers, Cardinals, Cubs, Pirates.
Okay,
That's
interesting.
Those 2 players are impactful.
Yeah, no, 100% there, definitely. And I think Arenado signed a deal last year, if I'm not mistaken. So if they acquire him, it'll be big.
He has a buyout in the season after this one. So I think that's why the Rockies want to trade him. I don't know actually why they would be interested in trading him, but it would have to be a huge haul to get Nolan Arenado.
Yeah, for sure.
But still, I think the Cardinals definitely have the means to make that trade. I think the Rays should make that trade personally.
Yeah, given our budget
they
constraint, I don't think that's ever gonna happen.
He'd literally be like half the salary. Moving on, NL West. Unless there are any drastic changes, I think the Dodgers are running away with it again.
I think that's a pretty safe prediction. I mean,
right?
Who have they lost this season?
Hyunjin Ryu.
Okay, and who have they acquired? Anyone important or you think would be valuable for this upcoming season?
Off the top of my head, not really.
Yeah, I mean, their roster seems to be relatively consistent. And again, their regular season performance is always consistent and above what everyone else in their division does. Although it's been close a couple times. And they win close to 100 games or over 100 games every year, it seems like, at least. From how
when you got that money.
Yeah, when you have the money,
you got that money, man.
Combined with the analytics, I mean, no one's stopping you. Except the Astros.
There's so many times where...
So, yeah.
Yeah, except the Astros. There's so many times... And the Nationals last season.
Yeah. And, yeah.
But there's so many times you just see the Dodgers, they make these strange trades to get good... Like, let's say they make a trade for an expensive player to get a great prospect in return and then drop that player. They can just take the pay cut. I mean, they can take the hit to their salary because they're just so rich. They have so much money. It's honestly not fair. And if Arenado leaves... The Rockies, I don't think they're winning very many games, considering they're never good at starting pitching. And the Diamondbacks, they lost Zach Greinke they traded Zach Greinke to the Astros, and then they got Madison Bumgarner, which I think is a net negative. Bumgarner hasn't been the greatest in the regular season. He's just a postseason god. Both the Rockies and the D-backs, they have bright young stars like Trevor Story, David Dahl. I know you like yourself some David Dahl.
Oh, yes, I do.
Starling Marte. Starling Marte? No, Ketel Marte and Lamb. I know you like Lamb too.
Yep.
Jake Lamb.
Yep.
But I don't see them going very far. The Giants seem mediocre too. They lost Bruce Bochy. It is an even year, so you never know. And then the Padres are... This is the year the Padres need to take advantage of these lackluster teams because they are in the win now mode. They just traded for Tommy Pham, and they have some great pieces on that team, great young players, and I think they could use another starting pitcher for their rotation. I know Chris Paddock is pretty good there. So maybe shore up that rotation. I know their bullpen's good. They have Kirby Yates, former Ray, up in there. So I think the Padres will be good. They have to take advantage of this season because this is their best shot right now. So prediction, Dodgers number 1, obviously. This is pretty easy actually. Dodgers, Padres, Giants, Rockies, D-backs.
Okay. I think I think that makes sense. I mean, given the Padres' potential and who they've acquired, I think they could make a run for it for sure.
Definitely. moving on. Let's go. I started with NL East. Let's go to the AL East. I've given my spiel about the Rays.
I think this one is pretty clear.
Oh yeah,
I think
top to bottom.
I think I know who you're gonna put at the top.
At the top, I mean, you never know. You'll see.
Okay.
It might be a little surprise over there.
Go for it.
I've given my spiel about the Rays, obviously, so I think they're gonna be great. If there's one breakout team I am scared for, it is the Blue Jays. They are scary. They've added an ace in Hyunjin Ryu, who I think he should have won the NL Cy Young, maybe. I don't know. Maybe over DeGrom. And then they have such good young pieces. Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. are the future. A little tidbit. Bo Bichette played on my high school baseball team, which is pretty cool. But that's not to mention the other young pieces they have. Kevin Biggio, Lourdes Gurriel. All these are sons of former baseball players. So they've had baseball in their lives, their entire lives. I believe they also signed Tanner Roark, who's great. Don't quote me on that one. That one is just something I may have read somewhere. I think they could shore up that rotation a little bit, add a veteran somewhere in the field, because right now they are very young, but damn, they are a team to watch. The Yankees, I hate them. They'll be great as usual. Can't deny that. Can't deny that they're a good team. They signed Garrett Cole. They knew their weakest link was their rotation, and they went out and signed the god.
Yeah, they fixed their weak
pitching.
spot, which is, again, what you can do if you have the money for it, right?
That contract is wild. And then they're going to have Giancarlo Stanton back healthy, and then Miguel Andujar will be back healthy as well. That'll give them a boost. Yeah, I think they're going to be good again. The Red Sox were crazy good at home, but that could be because they cheated. Oh, they were well above average.
You make a good point there, I mean, if you think about it, yeah.
Yeah, they're being investigated for that's the 2018 season.
The same exact thing.
Probably carried on.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you cheated in 2017, for example, odds are you cheated in 2018.
And if you cheated in 2018, probably cheated in 2019
exactly.
Too. Man, so they were amazing at home. Like, the Rays put up a good fight every single time, but goodness gracious, they were amazing. And they have great players. Like, that's undoubted. Like, so many great players. Mookie Betts, Xander Bogaerts. Oh, but we never know. They might trade Mookie Betts. We don't know that yet. They're trying to trade David Price, I think, to sign Mookie Betts long term. But they might have to trade Mookie. But they have Chris Sale, one of my favorite pitchers of all time. I wish he didn't go to Red Sox.
He had an off year last year, but I think if he gets back on form, they'll be deadly.
I think he's going to bounce back, man. But I hope they're trash this season. I hate the Red Sox.
Yeah, I mean, so do I.
They've done nothing thus far, I think, in this in this offseason. Not to my knowledge. And if the offense does regress due to less cheating, then they'll be trash. And then finally, the Orioles will be the Orioles. They're trash.
Yeah,
who cares?
I mean, that's no surprise there, right?
All right. Predictions. I told you might be surprised at the top team. The Tampa Bay Rays. You were not surprised. You had it called out the entire time.
You totally got me there. I was not expecting that.
I think the Rays are going to lead the division. I think the Yankees will be second, and I think the Blue Jays will be third. I wouldn't be surprised if those three teams were jumbled up there. I think the Red Sox will be fourth, and the Orioles will be last.
Okay, how many more divisions does that leave you with predicting?
Two more. Hopefully I can run through those a little faster.
Which one do you want to go with first?
Let's go with the AL Central.
Okay.
I think there'll be a surprise team at the top of this one, too. Let's start with the, easy stuff. I think the Tigers will repeat as the bottom feeders. They're trash, and they're not going to be good anytime soon. My sister's favorite team is the Royals, and they've got some great young hitters, I must admit. But their pitching is terrible. They've got great speed on their team, too, but that pitching is disgusting. If they could add a pitcher or two, I could see them being a sneaky contender. They lost their manager, but we'll see what they do this season. I think it'll be tough to beat the other teams in this division, though. The Indians are consistently good, but they might trade Francisco Lindor, and if they do, they're like a lower budget team, not as low as the Rays and Athletics, but lower budget. And oh my goodness, the Minnesota Twins, Rocco Baldelli's team. They are the definition of overpowered. Goodness gracious, they set the home run record last season, and they just signed Josh Donaldson, the bringer of rain. What? Excuse me. This shouldn't be allowed. I mean, he's getting up there in age, Josh Donaldson is, but that team has so much firepower. Their bats are crazy. Hopefully they get rid of those juiced balls next season, man. And then to top it all off, they have such great pitchers at the top of their rotation. Jake Odorizzi and Jose Barrios. They're great. They're young. Jake Odorizzi, former Ray. Just got to say that.
I'm a fan of Odorizzi.
Love Odorizzi. I wish the Rays could have kept him. But, that's the business. And goodness gracious. There's no wonder that they were a 100-win team last season. I mean, they disappeared in the playoffs, but this team will prosper. So long as the baseballers are juiced, this team will be great.
Oh, for sure.
And then the White Sox. The White Sox are a scary team. I think this is a team that will not only have success in they'll be successful for a while. They have such great players coming up. They have great young talent that are signed on the team for 6+ seasons. And I think they're going to be good for a while. Top to bottom, their offense can compete with any other major league team. And they signed some great players. They signed Grandal. They signed Dallas Keuchel. I think they signed Edwin Encarnacion. And those signings immediately tell you they're ready to compete right now. Those aren't signings of a team that's tanking, waiting for their time. This is a team that will compete. So, all that said, it's tough to predict the top 2 in this division. The rest of the 3, I don't know. I think number 1 is going to be the White Sox.
Really? Okay.
I think so. They're going to be surprising. That's a bold take. The Twins are... There's no reason to doubt the Twins. I think they're still going to make the postseason. The Twins are amazing. So with Twins number 2, I'm going to say the Royals will be suspiciously good. And then they'll be number 3. I'll say Indians number 4, even though they have such a great team all the time. They lost Corey Kluber. They lost Trevor Bauer. So those are 2 pitchers that are great and tough losses. And then Tigers. I mean, easiest pick next to the Orioles.
Yeah, I mean, that's no surprise there.
The Central will definitely be a fun one. There are some teams that should be on the come up this year. Finally, the AL West, the home of the Houston Cheaters.
Yep.
The Astros are cheaters. Their players should be suspended. But that being said, they're still a great team. Air Jordan just came on the team, so no accusations there. I mean, maybe Buzzergate, you never know, but goodness gracious, that man is fun to watch. He and Aquino came up around the same time. I think Jordan came up first. And gosh, they just mash. They hit bombs. It's fun to watch those guys. Aquino and Jordan are 2 of the premier hitters that are going to be in the league for a while. Now, Verlander and Greinke, they are on the wrong side of 35. I think Verlander's 37.
Yeah, but honestly, man,
Greinke's
Verlander's
36.
like an angel's wonder. Like, it's crazy how he bounced back his entire career. But yeah, I mean,
very true.
With age, you do lose your performance. So let's see how they do.
Yeah, we'll see, man. We'll see. They did lose Garrett Cole.
They did. I mean,
that's a big part of their rotation.
A major part of their rotation for sure.
And they're getting Lance McCullers back, who's good, but we'll see how he bounces back from his injury. That definitely does not make up for the loss of Garrett Cole. But this division will not be a gimme for the Astros like it has been in the past years. The Athletics are always that sneaky team. You never know how they are so good, but they always compete. They're like the Rays, essentially. Low-budget team that always does well. I like them. I like when the Rays beat them as well in the postseason, just like they did in 2019. And that battle will always be one that's fun to watch. But they are a young team, and they'll have one more experience under their belt, one more year of experience under their belt, so we'll see how they do. The Rangers. The Rangers showed some good signs last season. They were above the Rays in the wild card at some points. They added Corey Kluber, so we'll see about that. I don't know. The Rangers are still suspect to me. The Angels got Joe Madden. That puts them higher for me. I love Joe Madden. I think he's a great mind. They signed Julio Teheran for their rotation, and they signed Anthony Rendon, showing they're there to compete. And Ohtani should be back to pitching. He didn't pitch last season. He only hit. So, man, And they've got Mike Trout. Come on, man.
Yeah, when you have Mike Trout, I mean, that just, again, like we said, out of all the players deserving of a large contract, I think he is the only one worth that kind of money.
Mike Trout is goated, man. That man is crazy good. I do think they need another pitcher for the rotation and maybe some bullpen pieces. Bullpen, people need to focus on that more because that's a lot of people's downfall. But, yeah, moving on. The Mariners, who knows what the Mariners are doing, man. Maybe they'll trade the Rays again. Maybe they'll give the Rays Mitch Haniger or something. But, yeah, I don't think they're going to go anywhere. Prediction-wise, this one's tough, actually. Like, usually, like, when I was talking before, most of it was off the top of my head, and my predictions were also off the top of my head. And this one is actually really tough because I don't know who's going to win this division between the Astros, Athletics, and Angels.
Yeah, I feel like this one you could, stick with the safe pick and say the Astros again.
I will not.
Or, you could go with the Athletics, who are just, just like the Rays in the sense that they're a very smart organization. But then you got the wild card, which is the Angels this year with, Joe Madden. We're all fans of Joe Madden, Tampa Bay Rays manager. So I think that's a toss-up. That's tricky. So who do you have number one?
Man, let's go with the Athletics.
Oh, okay. So you think the Athletics this year?
I think so.
Okay.
I'm going to put the Angels number 2.
Interesting. Okay.
The Astros are going to lose so much offensive potential from their home. They were so good at home.
Yeah.
The Astros and the Red Sox, I think I mentioned it to you multiple times last season. The Astros and Red Sox were abnormally amazing at home. So they're losing their cheating.
They're losing their cheating.
So
They've lost their managers.
they've lost Garrett Cole, and then they are 1 year older. That they being Verlander and Greinke.
Yep.
Both great. I understand, but time is crazy. So I'm gonna put the Astros at 3, Rangers at 4, Mariners at 5.
Okay.
That's everything.
Sounds good, man.
Man, I rambled, didn't I?
No, you're good. You're pretty on point with your predictions.
I'm looking forward to the season, to say the least.
Yeah, so let's see how well these teams do, and let's see how accurate you'll be at the end of the year.
Probably not at all, given our NFL predictions. Not at all.
Yeah, I mean, that was a doozy. Hey, at least my Super Bowl pick is alive after Wild Card weekend. So
You're right. I love Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're right, actually. I hope he wins.
Okay, then. I think that wraps it up for this podcast.
Yes, sir.
And
Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you all enjoyed this podcast. We'll see how this MLB season goes. Please check out our social medias at 1NDcasts on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And if you need to email us, it's at 1ndpodcasts@gmail.com.
Yep, that's correct.
Give us a sponsor, please.
Yeah, that's please. All right, well, thank you for listening. Catch you next week.
Peace.